The Bell of Red Hollow. No map marked Red Hollow anymore. Cartographers erased it after too many travelers returned shaken, swearing the desert itself had lied. Yet the road still curved toward it, subtly, like a finger curling inward. Horses slowed, dogs whimpered, the air thickened with iron-tasting dust. Red Hollow sat in a shallow basin, surrounded by low hills that hunched like bodies at dusk. Buildings leaned inward, creaking without wind. Rusted signs tapped against chains. Never in rhythm, never stopping. Nobody stayed outside after sunset. At exactly 11:57 p.m., every lamp went out. Not blown out, not turned down. Simply gone, as if darkness had swallowed the flame. Windows were boarded, cracks stuffed with cloth and prayer notes. 3 minutes later, the bell tolled. Slow, hollow, impossible. The steeple had collapsed years ago. The rope had been cut and burned. The bell had smashed into the church floor. And yet, every night its sound rose not from above, but below, vibrating through bone. Sheriff Eli Calder sat alone on the jail porch, hat low, lantern unlit. He had tried leaving Red Hollow once. His horse screamed like a human, collapsing as if its spine had been cut from the inside. Calder dragged himself back, lungs full of dust, fingernails torn. By dawn, the road behind him had vanished. Tonight, his scar itched, a thick purple line around his throat like a rope burned into flesh. As the bell tolled, invisible fingers seemed to tighten around him. Behind him, the jail groaned. A cell door creaked open by itself, metal screaming softly, as though careful not to wake something beneath the church. The ground pulsed once, deliberate like a heartbeat. Calder froze, hand on his revolver. His shadow lagged a half-second behind him. From a ridge at the edge of town, 5 riders appeared. Horses tall and thin, necks bending at unnatural angles. Dust beneath their hooves remained smooth. No tracks. The bell stopped. Silence crashed down, heavy and alive. Calder whispered, "Not tonight." One rider lifted his head. Even from a distance, Calder felt eyes lock onto him, ancient and patient. Then the bell rang twice more. The second toll faded, leaving a silence thicker than sound. Red Hollow seemed to hold its breath. The riders entered town without a sound. 5 figures, spaced evenly, riding down Main Street as if following lines only they could see. Horses' eyes milk white, ribs showing beneath stretched skin. Each breath fogged the warm night air. Calder's muscles screamed to run, but he didn't. The riders stopped beneath the broken street lamp in front of the bank. Moonlight revealed long black coats stitched with symbols too sharp to look at for long. Cloth covered their faces, old and stained, hiding nothing. Beneath the fabric shifted darkness like smoke pressing to remember itself. The bank doors creaked open on their own. Inside, the teller screamed, cut mid-breath. Calder ran across the street, revolver drawn. Hargreave froze, blood flowing upward as if drawn by the ceiling. One rider raised a gloved hand. Hargreave folded inward, bones snapping, leaving only a dark stain seeping into the wooden floor in the shape of a noose. Calder fired. The bullet struck the rider's chest and hovered, whining softly. The rider tilted his head. The bullet dropped. Outside, the other 4 dismounted. Wood groaned. Windows cracked. Somewhere, a child screamed and did not stop. The rider inside stepped closer. A layered voice spoke through the darkness beneath the cloth. "Sheriff, you should have stayed dead." Calder felt his scar burn. The jail bell clanged behind him. Not rung by hand, but by something inside. Red Hollow had been found, and it was ready to collect. Calder stood in the street, revolver lowered but ready, breathing hard. The 4 riders lingered near the well, horses motionless like statues carved from night. Townsfolk peeked from behind shutters, pale faces, eyes sharp with long-practiced fear. A door creaked to Calder's left. Martha Reed stepped out of the boarding house, shotgun across her arms. Older than he remembered. "You gonna shoot or talk?" she asked quietly. You should be inside, Calder replied. So should you, she countered. Didn't stop you. The rider near the well lifted a hand, not threatening, just seeing. We're not here for them, the layered voice said, carrying across the street. Not yet. Calder swallowed. Then say what you want. Use words like everyone else. The rider stepped forward. We want the truth, he said, and we want you to stop pretending you don't know us. Calder's chest tightened. You've got the wrong town. No, the voice insisted. We have the right sheriff. Another figure emerged from the crowd, Jonah Pike, former deputy. Hand trembling near his belt, he spoke hoarsely. There were 5 of you. Bandits. Or that's what we were told. What were your names? The air thickened. One rider spoke, slow and clear. Thomas Hale, Samuel Crow, Isaac Moreno, Will Brewer, Matthew Knox. Calder's memory pressed on him. Faces of tired, dirty, scared men insisting on innocence he had ignored. You were supposed to be bandits, he said quietly. We were miners, the voice replied. But the town needed villains. Silence hung. Then the rider asked, Do you remember who tied the rope, Sheriff? Yes, Calder said. The rider nodded, not in threat, but acknowledgement. Good, he said. Then we can finally talk like men who share the same grave. Farther down the street, shadows moved. Caleb Hale, the sheriff's counterpart in memory, observed the quiet tension as if weighing invisible scales, a past shared, debts unpaid, secrets long buried, all threading through the present night. Inside the saloon, Cullen Blackwood, notorious bandit, met Hale's stare. Lips curled in a faint, defiant smile. You're far from your gang, Hale noted. They're smart enough to wait, Cullen replied. Hale watched the subtle twitches in his hands, the restless eye movement, the tapping boot. You've made mistakes, he said. Some lucky, some not. You think you know me, Sheriff? Cullen asked, curiosity edged with challenge. I don't need to know what drives you, Hale said. I just need to know what stops you. Cullen paused, admitting softly. Fear. Not of death. Of failing where people expect greatness. Hale softened. Fear is a friend if you use it right. It keeps you alive. A waitress passed. Cullen's eyes followed, a human moment breaking the tension. You're not as ruthless as you seem, Hale said. Everyone's got a soft spot. Cullen shrugged. Even legends. The saloon shrank around them. Shadows clung to corners. 2 men who should be enemies circled each other, measuring, calculating. And Sam, the young deputy, realized he was witnessing something far more dangerous than a simple standoff. A meeting of minds. Cullen's hand brushed a small journal, scribbled, tucked it away. Plans, he said casually. Plans can be dangerous in the wrong hands, Hale observed. Sometimes the wrong hands are the only ones you can trust, Cullen replied. Outside, the wind rattled shutters. Inside, the storm of strategy, hidden motives, and silent threats raged on. Every word, glance, and hesitation shaped the night. Sam understood. Survival wasn't about guns. It was about reading people, timing, and knowing when to act. The saloon doors creaked open again, letting in a thin slice of moonlight. A tall figure entered, long coat brushing the floor, face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. The air shifted, tense, electric, like the room itself held its breath. Hale's hand hovered near his belt, cautious but calm. Cullen studied the stranger, stillness radiating from him, eyes sharp enough to unsettle even Hale. Evening, the newcomer said, voice low, calm, carrying authority. I hear this is where decisions are made. Cullen tilted his head, a slow, teasing smile forming. Depends on who asks, and why. I'm here because the town is stirring, the stranger said. People are moving without knowing the consequences. I'm here to make sure those moves don't go unnoticed. Hale's gaze hardened. And you think we're part of that? Not yet, the stranger replied. But anyone at this table is either a player or a pawn. Sam swallowed, heart hammering. The tension between the three adults intensified. This was no longer a game of sheriff versus bandit. Strategy, trust, and hidden motives had just gained a new, unpredictable player. Cullen leaned forward, voice smooth. Observation is fine, but do you play or just judge? Observation becomes action sometimes, the stranger said, and action changes everything. Hale's jaw tightened. So, we're being watched. Fine. What do you want from us? Nothing. Yet, the stranger said, tipping the hat ever so slightly. Some people act too quickly, some wait too long. Timing is everything. Cullen smirked. Timing, observation, patience. Sounds familiar. We're all students tonight. Or opponents, Hale said quietly. Depends on choices. Sam realized the night had shifted. The quiet game of conversation and calculation had become something far bigger. Every glance, every word, every hesitation carried weight beyond the walls of the saloon. The stranger glided to the door, voice carrying a soft warning. I'll be watching. And sometimes watching isn't enough. You'll see soon enough. With that, they were gone, leaving a charged silence. Cullen's smile faded into thoughtfulness. Hale's hand remained ready at his belt. Sam felt a mix of awe and unease. The unknown presence outside had tilted the balance. Cullen finally spoke. Things are getting unpredictable. Hale nodded. Unpredictable doesn't scare me. Surprises I can't anticipate do. Sam realized. Tonight, alliances could shift, secrets could unravel, and what seemed straightforward could explode into chaos. He felt the weight of every choice pressing against the quiet room. Cullen tapped the edge of his journal. Not everything shows itself immediately. Some truths wait until the right moment. Hale's eyes narrowed. And the time will come soon, won't it? Cullen's enigmatic smile deepened. Sooner than you think. Outside, the wind carried faint footsteps down the deserted streets. Inside, 3 men sat in fragile tension, their minds spinning, weighing each unseen move. And Sam understood. This night was far from over. The real game had just begun. Cullen's small envelope rested on the table, unassuming but heavy with intent. Hale studied it again, fingers brushing the plain paper, reading the weight behind every crease. What's in here? Sam asked, curiosity and fear mixing in his voice. Information, Cullen said, casual but deliberate. About someone in this town who thinks they're untouchable. Their next move will affect all of us, directly or indirectly. Hale's eyes narrowed. And you expect us to trust this? Cullen shrugged, leaning back. Trust is earned in pieces and sometimes in fire. Tonight we see if the pieces fit. Sam leaned forward, caught between excitement and caution. He could feel the stakes already shifting. Hale picked up the envelope, unfolded the sheet inside. Details, names, locations, patterns. Every word hinted at movement, secret alliances, and power no one in town openly admitted. Hale's gaze flicked from Cullen to Sam. Where did you get this? Observation, Cullen said smoothly, and friends who see what others miss. Outside, the wind whispered through empty streets. Inside, the room seemed smaller, the shadows thicker. Every choice now felt dangerous, but invisibly so, shaped by timing, perception, and the unseen threads of the town's life. Hale studied Cullen carefully. So we act. Together. Together. Cautiously, Cullen replied. One wrong step, and the consequences will ripple farther than you expect. Sam shivered. This was no longer a conversation. It was a test, and the envelope was the first move. Cullen's eyes scanned the saloon. Alliances are delicate. What seems like a choice is often another test. Hale nodded. We watch, we wait, and we act when the moment is right. Silence fell. Every creak of the floorboards, Every flicker of lamplight felt magnified. Outside, the streets were still, but the town itself seemed alive, breathing, waiting. Cullen tapped the envelope with a knuckle, smirk returning. The game has changed. Now it's about who can read shadows, who can anticipate the unseen. Hale's eyes didn't waver. And timing. Everything, Cullen said. Timing decides who benefits and who gets caught unprepared. Sam felt his pulse quicken. This wasn't about law or outlaw anymore. It was strategy, observation, subtle influence. Every glance, every gesture, a test of intuition. Hale folded his hands, leaning forward. And the right step? Cullen's smile was faint but certain. Depends on who you trust and how well you understand them. The night pressed closer, thick and quiet. Outside, the wind stirred faint whispers through empty streets. Inside, 3 minds circled each other. Sheriff, bandit, and deputy, bound by the fragile, invisible threads of timing, knowledge, and subtle power. Sam realized the truth. This night would teach him more about survival than bullets ever could. The envelope was just the beginning, and somewhere beyond the saloon's walls, eyes watched, waiting for the first real move to unfold. By the time Hale, Cullen, and Sam rose from the table, the saloon was quiet, its lamps casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the floorboards. Outside, the wind had died almost entirely, leaving only the faintest rustle of leaves. But the town itself seemed alert, watching, as though Red Hollow could sense the tension inside the saloon. Cullen slid the envelope back into his coat pocket. The information doesn't act by itself, he said. It needs time to shake things loose. Hale didn't answer immediately. He stepped to the door, peering into the empty street. You mean, people are moving already? Exactly, Cullen said, following him. Every decision, every glance, every whispered conversation now matters. A shadow flickered at the far end of Main Street. A figure paused, listening, eyes darting from window to window. Sam tensed. Is that one of them? Maybe, Hale said quietly. Or maybe someone who thinks they're safe. Either way, we'll find out soon enough. They walked carefully, boots whispering against the wooden planks of the boardwalk. Doors creaked behind them as townsfolk peeked out, silent, alert. No one shouted. No one moved openly. Red Hollow had learned that panic wasted energy. Ahead, the flicker of candlelight revealed a small gathering at the edge of town, a man hunched over a cart inspecting its contents. Hale's hand hovered over his holster, fingers brushing leather. Cullen stopped beside him, smirk faint but calculating. Watch him, Cullen murmured. He's connected to the envelope, not in the way you think. Not yet. The man on the cart lifted his head. Eyes wide, he froze, noticing them, or thinking he had. He muttered under his breath, shoving something into a bag. Hale felt the weight of observation pressing down, knowing any sudden move could trigger consequences far beyond what they could predict. Cullen's voice was soft. Every player has a role, Sheriff. Some willingly, some unknowingly, and all of them are about to be tested. Sam swallowed, realizing for the first time that this town was alive in ways he hadn't understood. Every resident, every hidden glance, could be part of a chain reaction, ripples set in motion by a single piece of information. The cartman's bag seemed innocuous, but Cullen's sharp eyes caught a subtle shimmer beneath the cloth. That, he whispered, is the start. Hale stepped forward, careful. The start of what? The dominoes, Cullen said, voice almost amused. Every secret in this town, ready to fall, and tonight we'll see who holds up and who gets crushed. Sam's stomach twisted. And we just watch? Hale's jaw tightened. For now. He turned to Cullen. And if it turns violent? Cullen's smirk returned, faint and unreadable. Then we adapt, but the violence will not be random. It will follow rules, the ones written in shadows, in timing, in observation. The man on the cart shoved the bag into a hidden alcove, then melted back into the darkness. Hale studied the spot, every sense alert. Cullen's voice cut softly across the quiet street. "Watch that corner. Whoever finds it first will start the game in earnest." Sam's mind raced. He realized the night was no longer about waiting or talking. It was about calculation, perception, and understanding every subtle movement in Red Hollow. One misstep, and the town itself could punish them. Hale exhaled, eyes never leaving the alcove. Then we watch, every shadow, every flicker, every step. Cullen's grin faded into a serious line. "Exactly. And remember, Sheriff, not all threats carry the sound of a gun." The street was silent again, but the weight of invisible eyes pressed down. Red Hollow had begun to move, and the first ripple from the envelope had just been cast. The night deepened, and Red Hollow held its breath. Hale, Cullen, and Sam lingered in the street, eyes scanning every shadow, every flicker of movement. The alcove where the cartman had hidden his bag remained empty, yet the air around it seemed charged, like the calm before a storm. Cullen's gaze never wavered. "Patience, Sheriff. The first move is never obvious. Watch who reacts, not who acts." Hale's hand hovered near his holster. "And if someone reacts violently?" "Then you'll see who controls fear," Cullen replied, voice low. "And who is controlled by it." Sam shifted nervously. "It feels wrong. Watching people like this? We're not the law, not fully. We're something else." Cullen's lips curled into a faint, unreadable smile. "Exactly. And in this town, something else is what keeps you alive." A faint noise caught Hale's attention. Footsteps on a distant boardwalk, careful, deliberate. He signaled for Cullen and Sam to follow, moving silently. The streetlights flickered above, casting broken light that made every shadow twitch unnaturally. They rounded a corner to find the cartman crouched beside a boarded-up storefront, tugging at the boards with surprising strength. A soft click followed. Hale's eyes narrowed. What is he doing? Cullen leaned against the wall, calm. Revealing himself, or revealing what he thinks is hidden. The man paused, glancing up. Hale and Cullen stepped into the faint light. Sam froze behind them. The man's eyes widened, recognizing them, or perhaps recognizing the inevitability of what was about to unfold. "Step back," Cullen said softly. "We're not here to kill. Yet." The cartman swallowed hard. You're too late," Hale interrupted. "Whatever's in that bag, someone else already knows." A sudden rustle from the alley behind them made all three spin. Shadows shifted unnaturally, and Hale felt the familiar prickling at the back of his neck. The same feeling he'd had in Red Hollow for years. Warning of things unseen, but very real. Cullen's hand brushed his coat pocket, where the envelope had been. "Exactly what I said," he murmured. "Not all moves are visible. Some are set in motion before you can react." From the alley emerged a figure wrapped in dark cloth, eyes glinting white in the dim light. Silent, careful, and deliberate. Another shadow followed, and then another. Soon 3 figures faced Hale, Cullen, and Sam, each movement measured as if rehearsed. "You've found the first piece," the closest figure said, voice layered, unsettlingly calm. "But the game has only begun." The cartman trembled. I don't know what—" "You'll learn," Cullen said softly. "Everything in Red Hollow has rules, even if it hides them. Step wrong and the town itself will punish you." Hale tightened his jaw. "And if we step right?" "Then," Cullen replied, eyes narrowing, "you get to survive. But survival isn't always freedom." The layered figure advanced one slow step. Hale's hand hovered over his gun, but he did not draw. Cullen's smirk was gone, replaced by sharp attention. Sam's heart pounded. Every movement felt like a test, every glance a warning. "You know why you're here," the figure said, "and you know what's at stake." Hale's eyes swept the street. Silent homes, shuttered windows, the faintest movement in the shadows. Red Hollow was alive in ways most would never see. "We'll play," he said finally, voice steady. "But we set the rules for ourselves." Cullen nodded. "Good. Then let's see who can follow them, and who breaks them first." The three figures lingered, tension stretching the street like a taut wire. Somewhere behind a boarded window, a light flickered, hinting at observers. The first ripple had begun, and Hale understood. Tonight, every shadow would count. Every hidden glance could tip the balance, and the town itself was an active player. Red Hollow was awake, and the game had moved from whispers to motion. The street remained tense, every sound amplified. The creak of a board, the whisper of wind through the shutters, the faint scuff of a boot. Hale, Cullen, and Sam watched the figures across the street, their movements precise, deliberate. They weren't bandits. They weren't townsfolk. They were something else, shadows walking on two legs. Cullen stepped forward slightly, hands relaxed, but ready. "Red Hollow rewards patience," he murmured. "Not recklessness." Hale nodded slowly. "Patience, yes, but we can't wait forever." A soft chuckle echoed from a darkened doorway. A woman stepped out, thin and tall, her eyes glinting like cold steel. She carried nothing, yet the air around her shifted, tense and deliberate. Hale felt the familiar burn at his neck. The scar itched again. "You've drawn attention," the woman said, voice low but resonant. "Some of us are still watching." Sam swallowed, realizing the stakes had escalated. "Who is she?" he whispered. Cullen's gaze flicked to her, wary but controlled. "Someone who knows the rules and the consequences." The woman tilted her head, studying them. "This town doesn't forgive ignorance, and it certainly doesn't reward hesitation." Hale squared his shoulders. "We're not ignorant. And hesitation, well, we move when it counts." From behind the shutters, other shadows emerged. Figures Hale recognized faintly from years past. Miners, deputies, even faces he hadn't seen in a decade. All were still, silent, observing. The town itself had become a jury, and the envelope from last night was the evidence. Cullen exhaled slowly. "Looks like we have spectators," he said. "And some might take sides. We need to know who." The woman smirked faintly. "You'll find out soon enough. But beware. Red Hollow doesn't like divided loyalties. It punishes them." Hale's eyes scanned the street. "Then we make alliances. Quietly. Carefully." Cullen's fingers brushed the envelope in his coat pocket. "Alliances are temporary," he said. "Useful only until the real game begins. And in Red Hollow, the game never ends." Sam's heart pounded. "But who do we trust?" Cullen met his gaze directly. "Trust is earned in pieces, kid. And tonight, every piece matters." A sudden gust of wind rattled the shutters. The shadows in the street shifted, moving closer in subtle, deliberate steps. Hale felt the pull of the scar again, tight around his throat, a reminder that the town was watching, judging, and waiting for him to falter. The woman spoke again, softer this time. "The first challenge approaches. Decide your moves carefully. Red Hollow sees everything, even what you hide from yourselves." Cullen nodded. "Then we watch, we wait, and we test the waters before diving in." Hale's gaze swept the assembled shadows. "We need information. Fast. The envelope gave us clues, but not the whole picture. Someone is orchestrating this." From a distant alley, the soft clatter of something rolling over wood. Hale, Cullen, and Sam spun toward the sound. A small crate had fallen, opening to reveal a folded map, edges burned and marked with symbols Hale didn't recognize. Cullen crouched, studying it. "Someone wants us to see this. But why?" The woman's voice drifted from the shadows, almost a whisper. "Because Red Hollow rewards curiosity, but punishes pride. Choose carefully which secret you chase first. Hale felt the tension coil inside him. Every step, every glance, every decision from this moment would ripple across the town. The silent watchers waited, hidden in plain sight, while the real game began to unfold. Cullen rose slowly, his eyes sweeping the street. "We move tonight, not recklessly, but decisively." Sam nodded, gripping the edge of his coat. The map, the shadows, the watchers, all were pieces in a puzzle he barely understood. But he realized one truth. In Red Hollow, patience was survival, and timing was everything. The street stretched long and quiet before them. Hale, Cullen, and Sam stepped forward together, the first ripple of motion in a town alive with secrets and silent threats. The night in Red Hollow had grown colder, but the streets were alive with quiet tension. Hale, Cullen, and Sam moved down Main Street, the shadows stretching and twisting around them. Every alleyway, every doorway seemed to watch, as if the town itself breathed and judged their steps. Cullen held the envelope tight in his coat. The map spread between them. "We need to know who's making the moves before they hit us," he said. "Information first, action second." Hale nodded. "The map shows patterns, safe zones, traps, points of interest. Whoever left it wants us to follow. But why?" A soft scraping echoed from the roof above. Hale glanced up. Nothing. Then a shadow darted across the boarded windows, faster than any man could move. Sam swallowed hard. "This town, it's alive." Cullen smirked faintly. "It's aware, and it's patient. That's why people die here. They rush." Suddenly a faint whistle cut through the night. From the alley behind the saloon, two figures emerged, hooded, cautious. Hale raised his hand, signaling Cullen to stop. The figures froze mid-step, assessing. One stepped forward. "Sheriff Calder," the voice whispered, low and urgent. "You shouldn't be here. Alone." Hale's jaw tightened. "I'm not alone," he said, glancing at Cullen and Sam. The figure nodded once, eyes flicking to the shadows lining the street. "Red Hollow watches everything. Trust. Carefully. And the first choice you make tonight will echo." Before Hale could ask a question, the figure vanished, melting into the darkness. Sam exhaled slowly. "What was that?" Cullen chuckled softly. "A warning. Or maybe a guide. Hard to tell in this town." Hale studied the map again. Symbols marked buildings, alleys, and rooftops. A faint line traced a path from the saloon to the edge of town. "We follow it," Hale said quietly. "Slowly. Observing." The street was silent now, too silent. Even the horses in the distance seemed to hold their breaths. They moved, careful, step by step. Shadows flickered on the walls, some natural, some not. Hale felt the pressure at his throat again, the phantom rope tightening, reminding him that the town didn't forgive mistakes. They reached the first marked building, a general store, shuttered and abandoned, or so it appeared. Cullen pressed his hand against the door. It swung open silently, revealing a staircase, descending into darkness. "Basement," he muttered. "Someone's been using this." Hale glanced at Sam. "Stay close. Watch everything." They descended carefully, the air growing thick and cold. The stairs creaked, protesting their weight, and faint symbols glowed on the walls, etched, ancient, warning. At the bottom, the room was empty. Almost. Shadows clung to the corners like living things. In the center lay another envelope, sealed with wax, heavy and deliberate. Cullen picked it up, breaking the seal. Inside, a note. "First move, choose carefully. Not everyone survives the night." Hale's eyes narrowed. Someone setting the pace. Testing us. A soft noise from behind made them spin. In the doorway, the woman from before appeared, tall, motionless. "You've entered the game," she said. "Now you see how it begins. Every decision, every glance, it matters. Step wrong and Red Hollow claims its due." Sam shivered. "What do we do?" Cullen's hand rested on his revolver, eyes scanning. "We watch. We wait. Then we strike. Carefully. The woman's gaze swept them once more. Choose wisely. And she was gone, leaving only the echo of her warning. Hale folded the note, feeling the weight of responsibility settle deep. The first move had been presented, and the town, alive and hungry, waited for their answer. Hale, Cullen, and Sam emerged from the basement into the chill of Red Hollow's night. The town seemed to pulse around them, every shuttered window and leaning building, a silent witness. Even the wind had grown cautious, stirring only when necessary. Cullen held the note from the basement, turning it over in his hands. First move, huh? Whoever left this wants to see if we can think before we act. He glanced at Hale. We're on a clock, whether we know it or not. Hale's gaze swept the street. Shadows shifted unnaturally, stretching across walls and roofs, and he felt the phantom rope at his throat tighten again. The town already knows we're awake, he said. We're being watched, every step. Sam swallowed hard. Why? What are they testing? Cullen's smirk was faint, almost amused. Survival, judgment, timing. Red Hollow doesn't just scare people, it trains them, punishes them, rewards them, depending on how clever they are. Ahead, faint lights flickered in the windows of the town hall. Symbols marked in chalk glimmered on the doorway. A path leading somewhere, though the purpose wasn't clear. Hale nodded. We follow. Careful, deliberate, eyes open. They moved silently, every step measured. Hale noticed the way their shadows lagged slightly behind, a subtle distortion that made the street feel unreal. A low creak echoed from the balcony above, then silence. Sam's nerves tightened. Inside the town hall, the air was thick with dust and a faint metallic tang. The main room was empty, save for a single chair in the center. On it rested a lantern, flickering though no wind stirred. Cullen approached first, wary, hand on the revolver. Hale followed, and Sam trailed close. A note lay under the lantern. Decide who moves first. The others will follow your choice. Choose wrong. Cullen read aloud, tone casual but sharp. Decide who moves first. The others will follow your choice. Choose wrong. Hale's eyes narrowed. It's a test of leadership, initiative, but the phrasing, it's a trap. From somewhere behind them came a soft scraping, deliberate, measured. They spun. Shadows danced along the walls, not entirely cast by the lantern. A figure stepped from the corner. A man, hooded, carrying a small box. No words, no expression, just presence. Cullen's gaze sharpened. They're giving us options, but only one is safe, or less deadly. The hooded figure placed the box on the floor, then vanished as silently as he appeared. Hale knelt, opening it. Inside, a set of keys, a small revolver, and a folded sheet of paper. Instructions, precise, but incomplete. One line stood out. First move sets the tone. Choose your path, and the town reacts. Sam looked at Hale, voice barely a whisper. We can't know what will happen. How do we pick? Hale took a deep breath, feeling the rope around his throat tighten again. Invisible, but suffocating. We act as a unit. One leads, all follow. Calculated, deliberate, predictable enough for us, unpredictable enough to the town. Cullen leaned in, eyes glinting with cautious approval. Agreed. And whoever goes first carries the burden for what comes next. They exchanged silent glances, reading one another, weighing courage, instinct, and strategy. Outside, Red Hollow shifted subtly, the air growing colder, shadows lengthening, almost sentient. The first move was no longer just about survival. It was about understanding the town, its pulse, and its patience. Hale finally nodded. I'll go first. We watch, we adjust, and we move together. Cullen smiled faintly. Bold choice, Sheriff. Let's see if Red Hollow approves. Sam swallowed, heart hammering. And if it doesn't? Cullen's eyes darkened, serious for the first time. Then we survive anyway. or we don't survive at all. The trio stepped toward the door, Hale leading. Outside, the town seemed to hold its breath. Every shutter, every leaning sign, every dust-laden corner watched them. And for the first time, Red Hollow responded, not with noise, but with anticipation. The first move had begun. Hale led the way down Red Hollow's empty street, the lantern in the town hall now extinguished behind them. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the town itself weighed them down. The air pressed close, carrying a faint scent of iron and dust, thick enough to taste. Cullen and Sam followed, careful to match Hale's pace, watching the shadows twist unnaturally across walls and streets. The path ahead was lit by the pale glow of the moon, though it seemed dimmer, warped, as if bending around the crooked buildings. "Notice anything?" Hale asked quietly. Cullen tilted his head, observing. "The street, it isn't straight. It curves subtly, as if nudging us somewhere. Red Hollow doesn't let you choose paths by accident." Sam shivered. "What if it's leading us into a trap?" Cullen's smirk was faint, almost invisible. "Then we'll survive it. That's the first move. Predict the trap before it strikes." The trio approached the square at the center of town. Here, Red Hollow's architecture leaned inward the most, windows boarded, doors barely hanging on rusted hinges. In the center stood a well, old and cracked, shadows pooled around it like ink. Hale's eyes lingered on it, noting how the moonlight reflected in the water, not as a mirror, but as a shifting darkness that seemed alive. A soft thump echoed from the well. Then another. Hale raised a hand. "Stay alert." From the darkness, a figure emerged, tall, thin, wrapped in tattered black cloth, eyes hidden. No sound of movement, no rustle, only presence. Cullen's hand brushed his revolver. Sam froze. "Good," the figure whispered. The voice carried across the square, layered, multiple. "You've chosen. First move sets everything in motion." Hale stepped forward. "What do you want?" The figure tilted its head. "Observation, test, reaction. Red Hollow measures all who walk its streets. You made the first choice. Now we see how you respond." Cullen's voice cut through the tension. "And if we refuse to play?" The figure laughed softly, a sound that bounced unnaturally off walls, echoing in several tones at once. "Refusal is a choice too, but the town remembers, and it never forgives hesitation." Sam's stomach twisted. How do we know we're doing it right?" Hale's jaw tightened. "We do it together, carefully, step by step. Watch the town. React to it, not the other way around." The figure raised a hand, pointing toward the alley leading from the well. Shadows shifted there, crawling along the walls. "Then follow, and see what your choice brings." Hale glanced at Cullen. "Lead or follow?" Cullen's smile was faint, approving. "Lead together, share the risk. That's how we survive tonight." Hale nodded. "Then we go." They moved into the alley. The air grew colder, denser. The town's pulse became almost audible, soft vibrations through the ground, subtle enough to unsettle the mind. Every step forward sent ripples through the shadows as if Red Hollow was alive, calculating. From the corner of his eye, Hale saw figures emerging from doors and windows, silent, watching, waiting. Not townsfolk, not spirits, but something in between. They mirrored the trio's movements, shadows bending unnaturally to match their steps. The first test came swiftly. A wooden beam fell across the alley, splintering as if it had been alive. Hale ducked instinctively. Cullen pushed Sam aside. The shadows reacted instantly, shifting to block other exits, forcing the trio to think quickly. Cullen grinned, quietly impressed. "Not bad, Sheriff. Red Hollow's trying to see who panics first." Hale didn't answer. Focused, he scanned the alley. "Stay sharp. One wrong move, and the town claims more than pride." Sam followed their lead, heart pounding, mind racing. He realized the first move wasn't just about courage, it was about perception, timing, and understanding the unseen. At the alley's end, a low murmur rose from the shadows, soft, unintelligible, like the voices of long-forgotten residents whispering warnings. Hale stopped. "We make our next move together. On my count." Cullen nodded, tense but ready. Sam clenched his fists, swallowing the fear. Hale took a slow breath. 1, 2, 3. They stepped forward in unison, and the alley responded. Shadows shifted, doors creaked, the air thickened. Red Hollow had accepted their first move, and the night was just beginning. Outside the alley, the town held its breath, waiting to see if the players understood its rules. The first choice had been made. The consequences were alive, and Red Hollow was already reacting.